Today I was actually hit with some really awesome news. I got an email, and in that email, it was obviously from YouTube. If you guys aren't on my social media, I've already posted it. But I got an email from YouTube stating that the channel has hit over 100 subscribers. Now, that might not be a lot to a lot of you guys, but for me, small town country guy, that's not really, pretty much just, I'm really low key on a lot of things, and I don't really promote myself the way that I should. And so to me, like, this means a lot. I wasn't expecting to even get a lot of subscribers, but the thing that impressed me most was the time frame and the amount of videos I've posted to get all you guys to subscribe. And I know we're going to get more just because of like I said, the time frame, which is a really good feeling to me, because it means that I'm doing something right and you guys are enjoying the content. So but yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm actually out here walking my dog right now, so I'm kind of distracted at the moment. He's a little rowdy. But if you guys haven't noticed, in the last few years, the art scene, whether you're a painter, you draw, or you're a creator, or whatever you are, art has really taken over in the last couple years. And that's kind of why I jumped on board with actually doing YouTube, was because I saw it coming for a long time, but I watch a lot of YouTube, so I kind of studied it for a long time. And I just wanted to create a channel more in my life of why I do things the way I do, but more importantly, because since I do watch a lot of YouTube, I watch a lot of big channels and a lot of little channels as well, but a lot of the art channels, the information that is coming across to you guys is not accurate. You know, I've seen guys and girls, I mean, some of them are just trying to figure things out, and I understand that everybody got to start somewhere. But when you're a big channel and you're starting relaying these, you know, all this information to people, especially kids or people trying to get into this industry, and you're doing things not correctly, and you're showing people that, hey, it actually works when it really doesn't, that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to create a channel, was for that reason only. But because I want to give the most accurate information. I've got a lot of years doing this, and I do really good work. I don't talk myself up a lot, but I know I'm a really good painter as well as artist, so I want to try to bring out more accurate information than what you guys can actually find out there right now, because I don't think there's not really anybody out there doing this type of content as far as explaining things, going over the products, teaching you guys, you know, showing you guys how to use them, steps to take, things like that. So, but I'm really happy. Thanks for you guys subscribing. I know we'll get more as we go along. We start doing more videos, but I'm looking to ramp this thing up. So the next video, or actually in this video, you guys are going to see, we're going to start doing something really cool. I like to start giving back maybe every couple months or 3 or 4 months of every year, actually doing a panel or something and then giving it away for free to one of you guys, because I know a lot of stuff is really expensive as far as the art stuff goes, and all the creators creating things, you know, things are getting really expensive. People price their stuff really high, and a lot of people can't afford it. You know, I was trying to do that with the prints, and I'm still working on that, but I want to start giving back to the people that support me, you know, and believe in it. And maybe you're already an artist, and if you want to contribute, that's awesome. I'll do the same to you. But I'm thinking about just doing something like a giveaway, you know, every few months. You know, if I get an extra panel or a canvas or whatever it is, do something on it and just give it away. So show you guys that. Thank you. And we're going to get this video started. There's nothing much more I'm going to say here, but we're going to get this video started. This is going to be the introduction, so you guys stay tuned. So you want to paint your ps5, then you've come to the right place. So a lot of people have been painting these things. Some guys are doing it, and people are doing it really, really well. Others, misinformation everywhere. So what these covers are made out of a really hard plastic. So I'm guessing there's like a release agent in these, just like a brand new bumper off a car. So what I'm going to do to prep this is very simple. There's not much involved with prepping plastics. I'm going to keep it really short and simple. This is something I do on everything that's plastic, that's raw. It's pretty easy. There's not much to it at all. So, but I want to make this as clear as possible that you don't have to do a million things to get to where paint sticks on this stuff. As long as you're using the right products at the right time and your surface is really clean, you'll have no problems with paint sticking to these. Some people I've seen guys put like gesso on it or matte medium and then go to town on painting it, and that just, you take a blowgun to it, it's going to blow all that stuff right back off. So we're going to do it the right way. I'm pretty sure they're just a colored mold plastic that they pressed and they just have a release agent in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to really clean these really, really well. I'm going to use some glass cleaner. Nothing special, just plain old glass cleaner and a red Scotch-Brite, and I'm going to clean it as I'm scuffing and then get all the stuff that's inside of it out of it, and I'm going to clean it off really well. And then what I'm going to do after that is I plan on trying to just seal these, but as I'm sitting here filling them, it's got a little bit of a texture to it. So my idea with this was just to do a fancy design on this, but since it's off of a ps5, I want to keep it Sony related. So I'm going to do some wicked airbrushing on it. It's going to be all just Sony, and pretty much going to do like a game theme on it. So I've got a couple games in mind. I don't really have a plan right now, but I do have some things in mind I want to do, but it's going to be full airbrushing on both sides, and we're going to make this thing really, really stand out. I've seen a lot of people put graphics on them and they look cool, but when they're sitting on a shelf at home and you're actually playing it and this thing blows up, you really want something that stands out and that screams, PlayStation. So that's what we're going to do on these. So the first thing is get it clean, get it prepped, and then we're going to go on to the painting stage. Pretty much, I'm going to use everything House of Color on here. And the one thing with plastics that you got to understand is you got to understand whether it's raw or if it's got like primer on it already. I'm going to say again, car bumpers. Some of them come raw, like Nissans, Mazda, things like they come raw just right out of plastic mold. And you're supposed to use a special paste and a Scotch-Brite with it, and then like clean it off really well. You can do it that way with this as well, but I've been doing this for a long, long time this way, and I've never had issues. But I think it relies most on the products that I use, because the House of Color's got that KD 3000 system where their primers are sealer, and you put reducer in it, you can spray it as a sealer, and it pretty much sticks to everything. There are some plastics that I use epoxy on that technically not supposed to paint, such as if it's like a chrome painted piece, it's got that plastic fake chrome on it. I'll actually etch those and put epoxy primer on those first before I go and seal them or primer it. A lot of people think that you can just primer these with any type of primer and it's going to stick to it, and that's not the case. You got to have something that has a really good adhesion on it. You want something, and you can a lot of products nowadays, since technology's come a long ways, a lot of the sealers now have that adhesion promoter built into it. So it makes it really, really nice to where you don't have to put, you don't have to spray an extra coat of adhesion promoter on anything. You can just spray the sealer right out of the can and mix it and harden it or whatever, reduce it and spray it, and it sticks to just fine. But I do want to kind of smooth this out, so I'm going to use that KD 3000 system, and I'm going to make these blacks. I'm going to use straight black, and I'm going to use that as like a, not really like a heavy primer, but kind of like a medium build primer to where I can sand this back down as smooth as I can get it, and then paint it, and then we're going to clear this thing. So that's the plan for right now, and as I'm doing this, as long as we go along the way, I'll be thinking in my head what exactly I'm going to put on here. I'm thinking Uncharted because I've seen a lot of The Last of Us, and I've seen some Horizon stuff done on these covers from other people. So I want to do something a little bit different, and Uncharted is a really good game in my opinion, so it's probably one of the best out there on the Sony platform. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. I just got to get the right images and everything lined up to where I can get it all on here. But first things first is we got to get these suckers painted. Got to get it cleared with at least 2 coats of clear on it where we can sand it down flat, and then we can start transferring over our images and start airbrushing on this thing. So we're going to starting prepping this stuff, and then we're going to start getting some primer sealer on this. You just want to give it a good, pretty much just soak it. And like I said, red Scotch-Brite. I'm using red Scotch-Brite because it does have that texture in it, so I wanted to use something a little bit more abrasive to get down in those grooves, with little itty-bitty tiny microscopic grooves, to where it's going to clean this sucker really out. And it don't take much, you know, a little bit goes a long way with this. And it's going to do 2 things for you. It's going to actually scratch the surface, and it's actually going to start cleaning it as well. So if you got any type of, like, if you're doing like a bumper on a car, or anything that's got like really like dirt bugs or anything in it, and you really don't want to burn through the paint and use sandpaper to get that stuff off, or sit there and pick at it with your fingers trying to get it off, or clean it a million times, use some glass cleaner and spray the sucker down, let it sit for a couple seconds, and take a Scotch-Brite pad to it, and it's going to release all that dirt and grime off of it. Flip it over and do the same. Now we're going to have to paint both sides of this, because when you put it on the console you can still see the edges. So we're going to make sure we paint this thing standing up and clean everything inside out, because we're going to have to spray the insides as well. And the key to really Scotch-Briting is not really use a lot of pressure. I mean, you do want to make sure that it's nice and scuffed, but you mainly want to make sure you're getting all the little grooves and everything. That way you don't have anything that's going to peel up if you didn't Scotch-Brite it well enough, or create a good chemical scratch. Drop my pad. That wasn't supposed to happen. So, finish up here on this part. Since I dropped it, I gotta make sure it's not scuffed or anything now. Make sure all the tabs didn't break too. So, looks pretty good still. Like, this stuff is really strong plastic. You know, it feels like it could bend and break real easily, but it's actually a really good quality, thick plastic. So you don't have to worry about, you know, bending it too much or dropping it. Obviously, when you get it painted, you don't want to drop it on the ground like I just did. But that one looks good. Let's check this one out. Make sure it's all nice. Alright. So, I'm gonna clean it one more time. I'm gonna spray some more glass cleaner on it. And this is the stuff that I use. If you guys haven't watched my earlier videos explaining what I usually use most of when I clean stuff, I use this stuff on everything. And just wipe it down. You want to make sure you get all that sludge and everything off. Because anything left over, when you go to actually put any type of paint on this, if anything's left over, it's a spot where it's going to fail. And you don't want that. A lot of times, if it's got a lot of grooves in it and like hard to reach places, I'll take a blowgun and I'll blow it out really good. Make sure all the water and everything is out from the crevices. But it may not look like anything to you, but it's actually a little bit matter or in person. They come matte from the factory, but it's got like kind of like a little bit of shine to it, but now it's like really, really matte. And that's it. You know, don't overthink it, guys. I mean, like I said, raw paint, like raw bumpers and stuff, you do have to do a little bit different. But honestly, I just take a gray Scotch-Brite to those, and then I blow it off really good and use a plastic cleaner. I will use a plastic cleaner on these as well, because you just can't clean them with wax and grease because it'll actually soak into the plastics. So you make sure, like I said at the beginning of this, is you make sure when you use the right products at the right time, and you'll have zero issues at all. So, that's it. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry, right? There's not much you need to do beyond this. You can take like some 600 to these, and you can kind of scuff them a little bit better if you really, really want to go that far. But with these being as flat as they are, there's really no need. And like I said, since we're using that KD 3000 system with the House of Color, that, like I said, that stuff will stick to anything as long as you prep it right and you clean it and you use like a plastic cleaner. It'll stick to it. You know, you don't. I guarantee you will never have any issues as long as you do the right prepping process. Because it's just, I don't know what they put in that stuff, but I've painted a lot of chrome, I've painted a lot of plastic, you know, and I've done the same thing over and over and over again. And like I said, some chrome stuff I do put epoxy on it, but other than that, I don't do anything else. I just follow the guidelines of what the company says to do with the product, and I stick to it. I don't try to deviate and do my own thing. I'm pretty much like a robot. I do the same thing over and over and over again. Kind of boring it may seem like, but with painting and doing like really high quality stuff, you got to be able to do the same thing over and over again, because you'll actually build up a repetition to where you only have to think about it. You'll just start doing it like tying your shoes. So just don't overthink it. You know, that's the main thing here. It's not rocket science. Back in the day, before technology and all this stuff came out, you had to do certain things, and certain companies you had to do different stuff, and it was just confusing. Well, now, since they build adhesion promoter and pretty much every type of primer sealer, as long as a 2K, it's got to be a 2K. Don't go off and try to get like a spray can primer or sealer and think you're going to be good, because that stuff is just useless. It's not even really real primer in a can. It's just junk. Same thing with like clear coats. I see people use spray can clear coat. You know, it might look good after you put the whole can on a helmet or something like that and wet sand and buff it, but if you put it outside and put it to actually use, the sun's really going to eat through it, just because it's not the same as if you're going to be spraying it, because in a spray can, it's really, really, really reduced, and it's not as thick, so like the UV protection isn't as good. The only clear that if you really have to do it, and it's going to be something that you don't really care about much, There's a company called, I think it's called Spray Max. They make this clear. A lot of people use it on smaller stuff, and it's fine. But like when you're doing something for somebody else and you really want to do a good job and make sure they get the best of the best, I just recommend buying some really good clear, because there's a lot of clears out there that'll just, you know, they're cheap and they're really thin and they're not going to give you that same protection. So when you're doing, especially like artwork that we're going to do on this stuff, is, you know, I want to put the best of the best because I want to protect everything underneath of it, and I really want to make it look really good. So I always just go by I go buy the expensive stuff, and I just do it just because I know it's going to work. I don't have to guess. I don't have to worry. It's just going to, same way with the primer and everything else, is just go buy the 2K stuff. You know, it might be $50 more a quart or a gallon or whatever you want to buy at the time, but just stay away from the spray cans. And that's one of the things I've seen on YouTube a lot, is these DIYers. They just, you know, they go and grab something off the shelf off the automotive just because they don't have an area to actually spray things, and they just got something, they just, you know, spray it, but it's really not going to last very long. Especially, like I said, if you take air gun to it or power washer or anything, it's just going to blow it right off, and it's not going to give it the same adhesion characteristics as a really good 2K primer that has something like adhesion promoter built into it. So I can't stress that enough. So if you're having problems and you've already done this and you're having problems with like everything lifting all the way back down from your clear to your base to your sealer to your primer, and the primer is actually lifting off or anything like that, it's because you're probably not using a really good product, or 9 times out of 10, more or less, it's because you didn't prep it right, or you didn't clean it right, you didn't use the right stuff. So can't stress that enough with doing this. Just make sure you do the right steps at the right time with the right products. So we're going to get to go on this. I'm going to throw this stuff in the booth. You're going to see me actually clean it with a plastic cleaner, and then we're going to start spraying that medium to, you know, high build primer sealer that I've got mixed up for this on this, and then we're going to bake it, and then we're going to get this thing to where we're going to sand it back down, throw some black base on it, and get some clear coat on this, and then we can start sanding that thing down, get the artwork on there, and prep it up and get it ready to be painted. So but other than that, that's it for this. I will throw some video footage up of me doing that process, but other than that, that's all I'm going to really say in this video. So thanks for watching, and enjoy the last process. Alright, so we got the panels zip tied down to the stand. We got our paint mixed up. One thing I did forget to mention when I was prepping this is on plastics, if you're going to prime it especially, or seal it, you can, instead of, if you're one of those people that are like, oh, Scotch-Brite ain't enough, you could take some 320 over it, not with the DA. I don't recommend doing a DA unless you're really primering it. But if you do it by hand, just lightly, you want to scuff over it just to make sure for extra insurance, you can do that. Because you can seal over 320 scratches and get away with it. You know, if you're one of those people that don't want to do that, step up to 400. You can do it with 400 or 600. You can seal over 320 though. I've done it many times, especially if you're using it on a DA. But with the raw plastic, I suggest, you know, try to just do it by hand, because you get really aggressive on a DA, it'll start making like these little checkered marks in it, and it could really damage the panel, and you'll end up having to prime it. But if you're really primering it, then you don't have to worry about any of that, because you're just gonna sand it back down, you're gonna seal it, and you're gonna paint it and clear it, or whatever you're gonna do to it. So I just want to make that clear that you can go ahead and do that. And on these panels, I was kind of doing some research on them, and I really wanted to know what was on top of it, because I noticed when I was cleaning it, like a white powder started coming off of it. So I went ahead, I took a used piece of 320 by hand, and I just lightly scuffed over it, and it started like turning into like a powdery substance. It wasn't paint, but it wasn't plastic either. It's really weird, and the texture on the outside started kind of smoothing out a little bit. So I just went ahead and did that real quick and re-cleaned everything, and then cleaned it with some plastic cleaner, and then I'm getting ready to tack it off right now. So with the KD3000, you know, that primer sealer system, it's really, really awesome because you can, depending on how much reducer you put into it, like if you're wanting to primer it, like a heavy primer, it's a 4-to-1. But if you want like a medium build, it's a 4-1-to-1. So you add a little bit of reducer to thin it out a little bit. And if you want to seal it, it's a 4-1-to-2. And you can actually thin it a little bit more. But since like we're going just black, we're going to be airbrushing over black, I'm going to seal it and just seal it. And I don't have to put any black, I'm not wasting any black base or anything like that. And I go ahead and clear the sealer once it's dry. And that way I'm not wasting my time priming it, wasting more material, sanding it down, and then having to reseal it again, and then having to, you know, put black base on it or anything like that, and then clear it, because you're just wasting materials, you're wasting time, and pretty much you're wasting money. So you got to think about stuff like that, the ways that you can actually get around of what you're doing and what color you're doing. So, but since we're airbrushing all this, it's going to totally cover everything up. So I'm starting out with the black base, and I mixed up black sealer, so it's going to work perfect for that. So we're going to seal this stuff, tack it off, seal it, and then we're going to clear it after it's dry. Then we'll sand the clear back down, and then the next video we'll start mapping out the design on this stuff. So it's going to look pretty cool. So hope you guys enjoy it. All right, so I got these things tacked off. I got them zip tied really well. They are going to move around on me because they're not really solid, especially that one over there. But I zip tie everything just because it makes it easier, makes it sturdier. I don't have to worry about anything flopping around as much as if you would just sit it on there, obviously. But with the way these are made, they have these little hooks in there. You're able to zip tie them really well because you want to get on the front and the back really, really well, because you do see the edges when it's on the system. I'm going to show you this one as well. So just zip tie them to anything you can that you can get underneath of it. These bumper stands work really well for that. I'm going to turn down the air pressure just a bit on my sealer gun, and then we're going to go and seal these things and get them done. So they're all sealed. With anything that you're painting, you really want to make sure that your edges are wrapped around. That way you don't leave any edges uncovered, especially when you're sealing, because seal is going to make everything else stick to this. So if your sealer's not covered, you're going to have problems with adhesion. So just make sure you wrap your edges around anything, especially if you're laying color, sealer, or anything like that. Make sure those edges are nice and solid. But that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, came out really good, nice. Gonna let this tack off for about 5-10 minutes. Throw some heat on it, and then come back in. We'll come back in, and I'm gonna put some, probably 2 coats of clear on it. Will be all right. That way we can give it a nice smooth finish when we sand it back down. So, and this is what it looks like after the sealer has flashed off fully. You can tell it laid out nice and smooth. There's no dirt in it that I can tell right now. I haven't tacked it off yet, but you tell it's pretty smooth as far as you can see the kind of the where I prepped it at. But since we're going to be clearing it and sanding it back down, I'm not really too worried about that. Now when we clear this, it's going to be shiny, like gloss black almost. You won't see all these little, you see all this stuff in there, all that stuff will get melted into the clear and it'll be fully black. Like if you put black base down and cleared it, it just won't be as shiny as black, but all this stuff will go away. Like I said, since we're adding artwork on top of it, it's not going to matter anyways. But this is what it looks like right now. We're going to tack it off real quick, and I'm going to throw some clear on here. Alright, so I got it the first coat of clear flashed off for about 4 minutes at about 69, 70 degrees. As you can tell, it's got some texture in it still, but when we sand this down to add the artwork on top of it, when it's done and dry, it'll actually take all that out. So I'm not too worried about that. Plus we're going to be covering the whole thing up, but it's looking really, really good. I'm going to add one more coat of clear on it and try to level this stuff out. Alright, so the second coat of clear has pretty much been flashed off for about 10 minutes at about 70 degrees. We're going to take a look and see what they... Leveled everything out pretty good. Pretty happy. It's got some dirt in it, so don't mind the dirt, because like I said, we're going to be sanding this back down as flat as we can without burning through it, and adding artwork on top of it, so all those little dirt specks are going to go away. And you can tell that these plastics are not made really correctly because they got some indentions in them, which, like I said, that's probably going to be covered by the time we add all the clear coat at the end of it. You can tell down here, it's just the way they're made. So, but other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's it for this video. If you guys are interested in the products that I used on this, it wasn't very much. Bunch of 3M Scotch-Brites, spray-away glass cleaner. We got some plastic prep from House of Color that we used. Did the KD 3000 sealer primer system. The black sealer is 3001 if you're interested in using or trying this stuff out. And then we use the UC21 for the clear. I usually use the show clear, especially if I'm just gonna sand this stuff back down. The UC21 though is a thicker, higher solids clear, and it's better to bury graphics or anything, and it gives it a medium, like a really heavy build on the clear side of things. That way I can sand it down, so that's why I use the 21 instead of the show clear on this. So, but other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. Like I said, don't overcomplicate it. It is what it is. You know, just make sure you do your steps, make sure you use the right products at the right time, and you'll have zero issues with this stuff, you know. But like I said, as long as you guys are prepping the stuff and using the right products at the right time, if you see somebody not doing it, you know, you see them just going straight. I've seen guys go straight, not even prepping or Scotch-Briting or anything on the surface. They'll pretty much just clean it with some Windex or whatever, then they'll take a spray can of color and they'll just throw color on it, and they'll do some amazing artwork on it, and then they think it's going to last, and it's not. So you definitely need to prep this stuff, clean it right, and add a really good 2K adhesion promoter on top of it, as well as some good sealer to make sure everything, you know, the sealer and the paint and everything sticks to each other. And other than that, though, everything else is whatever you want to do. So until the next time, guys, thanks for watching. See ya.